All right, guys, welcome back into the podcast. Today, I have Coach Wilkerson, the head coach at Eastern Illinois University. Go big, go blue, because I went there. So, Coach, thanks for being here. Appreciate your
See,
time.
oh no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And then we were just talking about a small world the coaching world is, because you coached a guy I work with, brother, and I was like, oh yeah, there's this connection now, and so it's really awesome. You never know who you meet and who you talk to. It's
There's
really
no
cool.
question, no question. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be, growing up in Indianapolis and then coming to Eastern and going to California after 12 years in Charleston and then going to New Hampshire and then coming back to the Chicagoland area the last 9 years. And here we are full circle back at Eastern Illinois. But there are a ton of people that, like you said, small world connections that all of a sudden, hey, one person knows somebody or knows somebody that knows somebody. And it's shocking how many people do connect through the great game of football.
Absolutely. And of course, like I said before we started, head coach at Eastern, I went there. I even tried to walk on, got my butt kicked, and it was, whatever. Coach Spoo was still the head coach, in 2009. We had a linebacker. His name was Nick Nasty. He went to Plano, and I'll never forget that name. So that's the best football name I've ever heard in my life.
That's right.
Was
absolutely one of the all-time great names, football names, Nick Nasty.
Yeah, yes, it is. But what's awesome is, like you said, you had plenty of coaching experience. So it just all kind of came full circle to come back to Eastern. Because I remember when you got hired, they said, you coached at Eastern before. And I'm like, he's taking the route that Dino Babers did. He was there, then came back. So you're at University of Chicago for a long time. What kind of made you say, I'm going to go back to Eastern when it opened up? Like, this is just going back.
Well, it's a funny story. So growing up in Indianapolis and, 33 years ago, going through the recruiting process, like a lot of guys are doing right now, and Eastern was one of my 4 visits. And from the moment that I set foot on this campus, I fell in love with the place, but most importantly, fell in love with the people. I've always said from the time I set foot on this campus in January of 1990 to coming back in January of 2022, that the difference here has and always will be the people. They're just so authentic and genuine and caring. Anyway, so I went through the recruiting process and decided to continue my education here. I was fortunate, like you were, to be here when Bob Spoo was the head football coach, and Coach became like a second father to me. And, I spent 5 years as a student athlete here. And then when I came to Eastern, I knew I wanted to teach and coach, and I thought it would be at the high school level. Right. A lot of that had to do with how I grew up, and my high school coaches were a huge influence in my continued development, just as a man, as a person. And so at the end of my career, Bob, we sat down and he said, hey, have you thought about coaching college football? I'm like, no, coach, not really. Sharna and I met my wife here. She played softball, and we're getting married this May. I've already passed the Illinois examination. I've got reciprocity in the state of Indiana for a couple of years. I thought I'd get a job teaching and coaching in the burbs. And he's like, well, why don't you try this spring while you finish your student teaching? I think you'd have a bright future. And so, here we are now, 28 years later, 27 full years. This is my 28th season, and I haven't done anything other than coach college football. So yes, I stayed in Charleston on staff for 7 years, and those were great times. We had 6 winning seasons in 7 years, 4 trips to the national championship playoffs, 2 conference championships in the old Gateway Conference, now the Missouri Valley. And then our transition to the Ohio Valley Conference. Now, it didn't hurt that Tony Romo was our quarterback my last 4 years on staff. So we were pretty good on offense.
Right.
Anyway, then I did have a chance to go out west and coach FBS football at San Jose State University. It was an amazing experience. I got to experience college football at the highest level possible. We played the Buckeyes in the Horseshoe the year they won the national championship with Claret and Tressel. Beat the U of I when they were coming off of a Sugar Bowl appearance the previous bowl season, and in Champaign, that was a nice homecoming. Played Washington and Seattle, twice. Played Stanford on the farm every year. Played the Gators in the swamp. So I got to experience it at its highest. But after 3 seasons, my boss was actually let go with a couple weeks to go in our 3rd season, and so I knew getting into this that was a possibility at some point during your career. They say there's 2 types of college football coaches: those who have been fired or those who will be fired at some point. And so anyway, I had met a guy way back when I was here, ironically, and I'd just gotten hired at a high school coaches clinic in Danville, Illinois, named Buddy Stevens. And Buddy had been at Illinois when we met, and we had stayed in touch when he went to Florida, and then he went to Stanford, and we had gotten to know each other while he was at Stanford. And anyway, make a long story longer, when we got let go, Buddy got let go at Stanford too. And so it wasn't a week or so go by, and he had a chance to go back east to his alma mater, Dartmouth College. And so we connected via phone and met at the convention. And the next thing you know, I ended up in Hanover, New Hampshire at Dartmouth College for 8 years. and it was an awesome experience. And so, the first 18 years of my coaching career were at the Division I level.
Mm-hmm.
Then I finally, in 2013, had an opportunity to be a head coach at the University of Chicago. And having been a Midwest native, growing up in Indianapolis, I knew a lot about the University of Chicago and some of their history and tradition, and a chance to run my own program and try to, again, give back to others that had given so much to me in the game that had given so much to me. So we moved, and I'll be honest with you, I took that job with the hope that I would do well enough that we could stay and I could get my kids all the way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 3 kids, girl, boy, girl. And my oldest is a rising sophomore at Illinois State, playing softball right now, like her mother. My son is a rising senior, and my youngest is a rising sophomore. So we almost made it.
Almost.
But what happened in early January this year, Adam Cushing, the previous head coach here, made the decision to leave and go be the offensive line coach at Duke University. And so, here they were looking for a football coach. I got involved in the process, and the more that we talked about it as a family, know when these opportunities will come along. And so it was a chance to come home and restore a proud, storied tradition. And we're super excited about being back. So yeah, it's come full circle, and it's great to be home.
Yeah, I was going to say, good thing you've been there before, because it's a culture shock to people that live in the suburbs. Then they see Charleston, Illinois, and realize, like, hey, there's only Route 16 that takes you to Mattoon, and 2 lanes that go there and 2 lanes back. If there's
That's
traffic,
right.
There's traffic. It's a tractor.
That's right. That's right.
You guys hear that? I have a 100-pound chocolate lab that's going to bark, so I apologize. But because I grew up in 50 in Oakwood by Danville, so like, small town of 500 people, 1,600 people. Charleston to me was a boom. Like, okay, because then I coached high school football at Charleston High School, so I lived there for a while. So it's a good thing you knew, because some people, they get to Charleston, they go, "There's only 1 lane. It's fast food." And too bad Jerry's Pizza's gone. Like all those places, like it's all gone.
Don't worry, Jerry will have something going in there soon enough. I'm quite sure.
Because I worked there too. I worked down in the basement. And,
okay, at Jerry's.
Yeah. And then they'd rebuilt Marty's and all that stuff. We won't get into all that. We all know how Eastern rolls, but yeah, that's real funny, full circle. And, that was the big question. That was my question. You already answered. Like, how's the suburbs compared to Charleston? Because people don't know. South of I-80, they don't know if there's anything south of it.
Well, and the irony, so we lived south of I-80 when I was at the University of Chicago, just right there in Mokina.
Oh, okay.
And, my kids went to Lincoln Way Central High School. The 2 youngest still attend there. And so after further discussion, I'm going to let my son finish his senior year of football this next year. So hopefully everybody will be down here and settled in a new place,
right.
In early June, late May of 23. And my youngest will finish her last 2 years of high school down here at Charleston.
I know some teachers there. So if you need any help with those teachers, I got some pull from coaching football, basketball, and track.
Well, I appreciate that. I know I also have one of our guys on staff, Cole Hoover.
Yes,
is a Charleston native, and Cole has a very good feel for certainly all the people in the building at CHS.
I coached him his senior year there. I was down there. So yeah, good kid, good guy, great guy on staff for you right there.
Amazing person. He has been awesome from the day I had a chance to meet him in person for the first time. I had always known of Cole, and just having a chance to meet him in person, he's been nothing but impressive to me, and he's got a really bright future as a college football coach.
He's just like his dad. When I walked on, his dad was the O-line coach here or there. And, it was really weird because when that whole accent happened, I heard about it. And then when I got coaching into the Charleston High School, I heard his last name. And I remember going, where have I heard that name before? And then when I put 2 and 2 together, it was like an OS moment. I don't want to, whatever, like, oh my God, like small world. Like I was just like, oh, and his son, and he's just like his dad. He loves it. So when was there any like adjustment getting back into Division I, being at the Division III level? Because there is some differences, or was it just?
There's no question. The good news is this: everybody's going through a tremendous amount of change over the last 4 or 5 years, whether they've been in Division I for 40 or 50 years, just because of all the name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal stuff. And so, transitioning, like I said, I spent the first 18 years of my coaching career at the Division I level. It's like riding a bike. You don't really forget the rules are a little bit different. We get a little more contact with the players. Certainly you got to balance the scholarship budget. You know, there's a little more paperwork, and I have a little more in terms of resources, in terms of people to help me push some of those papers. So, but really, to be honest with you, the essence of coaching is still connecting with people, you know, and building a culture, and you know, making sure that guys understand that we care about them as people before we care about them as players, and just helping them be the best versions of themselves. It's about it impacting, enriching, and transforming lives, and that's what we're here to do again.
Yeah, because one big thing, and I'm sure you'll continue it, was the community in Charleston is so big for the football program, the basketball programs, and like Eastern has always done a good job of like getting the players out and doing stuff in the communities or anything else. And like you said, it's because Eastern really needs those people to come to the football games and everything. Yeah. And it's huge.
The connection to the community is huge. And ironically, we talked about Cole. He is my community service outreach coordinator. And our players have been extremely visible this spring. And even this summer, we had, you know, Charleston Recreation Day Camp. They had 75 campers that they have on a daily basis. And one of their stops this year was to come through the stadium and the facilities. And they break them up into smaller groups of 15 or 20. And so I had 4 groups of younger people come through my office and high-fiving and jumping up and trying on rings and stuff, but it's all great stuff. I mean, Ray McElroy is a guy that I played with here for my last 4 years, his 4 years, because he didn't redshirt, but we graduated together. We're senior co-captains. He played in the National Football League for 9 years following graduation, but he's never forgot where he came from and what this place did. And since the pandemic, he hasn't been able to come back here and do his Ray McElroy Pro Football Camp, which he does for free. But this year we finally had 55, 60 kids back out in Charleston on O'Brien Stadium last Friday and Saturday night after the 4th of July. So it was awesome. You know, and it's great to see those people back, you know, and the kids getting out and about, but hopefully we'll get that thing back up to another 100, 150 kids, but the community's huge for us.
Right. Even like Mattoon, because it's so huge, like going to all over Coles County, not just Charleston, even though it's there, you still have to like get Mattoon involved. And that's what's great about it. Because it's so close too. That's the great thing about it.
Effingham, Tuscola, Arcola, Mattoon, Charleston, Casey, you know, any of the surrounding communities. Absolutely, no question.
There's even signs up here somewhere in the suburbs. You'll see an EIU sign somewhere. So ever since I've been down there in 2009, it has just kind of, even though I was there when the budget cuts happened, I was there, enrollment dropped. It's slowly getting back. You're seeing signs everywhere and coming back and being that pride that Coach Spoo started. And even before that, it's all coming back. That's really awesome that you're continuing that. You said all the right things with that. Like, yeah, he's continuing it. There is a pride thing there that no matter who steps in has to continue that part of it.
No question. Yeah. Part of our DNA here is pride. And it's one of our acronyms that we use all the time. And we talk about personal responsibility and daily excellence. But pride is a big, big, big part of this place. I mean, it has always been a place that's founded on effort and enthusiasm and energy and toughness, hard hat and lunch pail, blue collar players. That are passionate about playing football and playing for each other. So we're restoring that. And believe me, there are a lot of people here in the program that understand how this place was built. My defensive coordinator, Adam Gristick, was a linebacker on those back-to-back championship teams and playoff teams with Jimmy Garoppolo. Our corners coach, DJ Bland, was on those same teams. I talked about Cole. He played offensive line here. Certainly myself. And then even our Foxes or Nichols coach, Colin Geyer, he had gotten his master's degree here at Eastern. Gone back to the University of Arkansas and come back. And even my associate head coach, wide receivers coach, special teams coordinator, Kyle Derrickson, his dad played basketball at Eastern in the 70s. You know, so he and his mom met, I think, right between Ike's and the old, I guess, Teak House or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The fraternity house right there on Lincoln. So it's crazy.
It's amazing. I know those names too. I became friends with a guy down there. His dad's the judge in town, Judge Schick. So him, and know all of his sons, know the whole, like, that's the thing about Charleston. Once you met somebody and you became friends, it was like you knew everybody, which coming from a small town outside of Danville, it was the perfect fit into there.
Yep.
But that's really awesome. Are you guys dealing a lot with name, image, likeness down there or anything like that?
So it's starting. And to be honest with you, you know, our players are pretty resourceful and, you know, they keep their eyes and ears open and they see what's happened nationally. And I think they have kind of put together their own, you know, little plan, but right now they'll run those plans through the athletic administration and they'll try to come to some agreement and then, you know, try to move forward with one of their proposals. And it's really an opportunity for different either businesses or people in the community to get behind the curtain a little bit more, if you will.
Right.
Whether that be additional appearances or whether that be additional tailgates or just having an additional access potentially to certain players. So it's something that we are continuing to evolve with. But our players are doing a pretty good job interacting with the athletic administration right now.
I would say that's more on your guys' plate too, but I mean, it's more work, but I guess they deserve it if it's a thing that's happening to
Absolutely.
them.
Yeah. If it's a resource that they can, benefit from, then hey, I think more power to them. And it's something that would certainly benefit quite a few people.
Right. And especially in Charleston, it's cheap. So whatever they get, they'll be fine. That's the way I look at it. That was the great thing about Charleston. And then I moved up to the suburbs in 2018. I'm like, oh, it's a little different up here than
that's where you get the culture shock from a price tag standpoint going up to the burbs.
It was that and the traffic.
Oh,
the traffic because I live in Naperville, but I coach at Addison.
Oh yeah.
It's only like 18 minutes, but still, if you don't leave at the right time on 88 or 355, it's done.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question.
And what was the other thing I was going to ask you? I totally forgot. But so you kind of, I kind of describe this now as you're not rebuilding culture. You're just kind of putting your culture on it, is the way I am saying it now, because there's already a culture built wherever you go, good, bad, and different. So when you went there, you kind of knew EIU culture and everything. But for you personally, when you got there, like, okay, what was like the first thing you were going to do? Come in and say, I'm going to put in my culture or our culture, however you want to word it. Like, what was the first thing you had to do?
Yeah, I think, like you said, there is a culture at each institution. Within each program, coaches aside, period, just whatever the place stands for and kind of how the kids carry themselves and how the institution represents themselves. But for us, it was really more kind of putting what we call our standards, our expectations, and our philosophy in place. And so for us, that centers around family and creating a family atmosphere. And, when I assembled the staff, I was very purposeful in talking with each and every one of them and making sure that they understood, our commitment has to be to our players, and that our players don't care what we know as football coaches until they know that we care about them as people. And this is going to be a relationship and a family that's based on connection and communication and trust. And those are things that are built over time. And so we did spend the entire spring, connecting with our players, learning about our players, not just about what kind of route they run or what kind of pass rush move they're very good at or how they deliver the football, but really more about their families and about them and about how they got to Eastern and what their stories were. That's important. I mean, you've got to have that connection. And the championship teams that I've been around, whether it was at Eastern Illinois or at San Jose State or at Dartmouth College or at the University of Chicago, the best teams I've been around have been like a brotherhood. They have been a family. And believe me, that doesn't mean we won't have disagreements.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we all like each other all the time and that there won't be chaos and moments. But we're super excited about that. And we did get a chance to certainly, like I said, establish our philosophy, our standards, our expectations with our players, and most importantly, connect with them.
Right. And the good thing, because to some people, I was going to ask you this, I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect between high school coaches and college coaches. For example, I don't think high school coaches appreciate all the hard work college coaches do have to go through, but then some college coaches don't understand the high school, what they go through. And I was going to ask you, like, do you think like your experience at Division I, you understood the hard work, then it'd be at Division III, all that extra stuff, I think maybe glorifies you a little bit when you go back to Division I.
There's no question. I mean, let me tell you what, when you're in Division III or, depending on the high school, now there are some high schools that operate as good or better than a lot of the colleges and universities. But by and large, when you're at Division III and when you're at the high school level, as with a lot, you wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
You are sizing the kids and you are gathering all the equipment information and you're distributing the stuff. And, you're certainly the motivator and the mentor and the crazy uncle and the coach and the strength coach and the conditioning coach and the transportation. I mean, you name it. I mean, you're wearing a lot of hats when you have a limited set of resources or a limited number of people in terms of resources.
Yep.
So, yes, I have a great deal of respect for small college football coaches in general, and certainly for high school and even, all the way down to JFL coaches for what they do in terms of connecting and helping build better men and build better people. It's just an important part of the process, and it's such a great game. and has given so much to my family and myself, that I just want to continue to give back. That's really what it's about.
Well, that was a cool thing about Eastern back in the day. They were used to, on their spring game, host like a mini coaches thing where coaches could come in.
Yep.
And he said between this time and this time, our doors are open because it's the spring game. We're already set to go. Ask any questions you want. So you can knock on anybody's door and talk to coaches. And I thought, okay, these coaches get it. Like, they understand, like, we want to learn, we want to get going. Then there's some out there, like, for example, if I reach out to talk about football on a podcast, they say F off and go, or, whatever. And so I was talking to a high school coach who transitioned from college D3 to high school. And he goes, I've realized the disconnect some have. And I said, well, hopefully through my podcast, talking to people, it brings it back. And like, you understand, but some don't. There are some, all they know is Division I.
Yep.
And they don't understand what small Eastern is not a big school by any means, but they don't understand what you may have to go through compared to North Dakota State or something like that,
Yep.
And we all have to, the game coach, there's less coaches out there too. If we lost 4 going into the summer and we just filled it. Like, there is none. Wow. And less and less are doing it. And so we have to stick together and work together and all that stuff. Just slowly wrap it up because you're very busy.
No, it's all right. Good.
I'm just curious, what kind of offensive team are we going to see? Because I'm a big offensive guy. Don't give me secret. Don't give me the secret sauce, because I want people to know. So, like, what's your offensive philosophy coming in?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The secret sauce is to score one more point than our opponents.
Yes.
So, here's the thing. Did I come in here with an offensive philosophy, and have we installed that philosophy? And are we a spread-ish, numbers, leverage, advantage-based, air raid-ish offense? Yes, we are. But the most important thing is going to be taking care of the football, taking care of each other, and at the end of each game, scoring one more point than our opponents. So our job as a coaching staff is to tweak or modify our philosophies that we have in our toolbox to play to the strengths of the skill set of the players that we have. So, we're still evaluating our players, and there will be competition during preseason. Our players finish their summer workouts. They've got the rest of this week. They've got next week. They've got 1 week off to kind of decompress. And then they report Sunday, July 31st. Our first practice is Monday, August 1st. We open up in DeKalb at Northern Illinois, the defending MAC champions up there on Thursday night, September 1st. But during that preseason, we are still going to be evaluating talent and building chemistry and putting in more building blocks or tools in our toolbox that we'll have for the duration of the season for this marathon. So we really focus more on process, but offensively, the biggest thing that we want to try to improve on is taking care of the football and eliminating some of the minus yardage plays. So even if it's gaining 1 yard, it's better than losing 3. Even if it's at the end of the day, having 1 turnover in a game as opposed to having 3, we're going to give ourselves a better chance to be successful at the very end of the game, because the goal is to have 1 more point than our opponents. So even if we average 600 yards a game, but we end up 3-8, that's not going to be what we're looking for. The idea is to win football games. And so as the head coach, yes, I have an offensive philosophy, I have a defensive philosophy, and I have a special teams philosophy, and I have coordinators for all 3 phases. But my job is to coordinate all that to make sure that we play complementary winning football. That's the goal here. So it's still a little bit TBD. It's a blank slate, if you will, when we presented it to our players. Hey, these are the things that we would like to have in our toolbox. It gives them almost every concept. And now as we go forward and we figure out the best 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 players on offense, okay, now what does he do well? How can we get him involved? How can we get him the ball? Who's distributing the football? What do they do well? What tools in our toolbox can we utilize to give us a chance to be successful? So I know that was a long-winded answer, but we still have a ton of work to do, but we're really excited about getting back together and getting ready for this fall.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you can come in with a plan, but you're kind of getting guys that recruited for a different, set of skills. And so you want to come in and make sure, okay, this is my overall thinking, but maybe they can't run this play. Maybe they can't run this run play. And so we have to tweak it a little bit until you recruit the type of players to do that, So you kind of answer that in that next question of, what kind of, you're probably seeing a lot of bumps in the defensive scheming and offensive scheming, like, well, maybe we can't do this, but
Well,
they can do this.
We prefer not to use the word can't. We say, hey, we might be able to do something else a little better or a little more efficiently.
Right. Well,
for us.
Our head coach says, don't tell me what they can't do. Tell me what they can do. Well, then I'm the jerk, though, that comes in and I say, well, I have to tell you what they can't do to tell you what they can do. And he goes, touche. Like, okay.
Touche.
Because I tell him, like, hey, you want to run this run play? Well, they can't pull, but guess what? He can down block. So maybe we move him here and we can do this. So I'm devil's advocate.
That's good.
I'm the jerk, though. Sometimes I'm like, well, that's my job, though. I'm here to tell you that because I'm the O-line coach. I have to be a little bit of a jerk. My little chip on my shoulder.
Oh, the hog guys. Hey, I'll tell you what. If your hogs aren't good, if you're not good up front, everybody in the stadium's going to know it.
Or they're going to yell at me to block somebody. I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. You get so much constructive criticism by the just everyday football fan block somebody. There's a lot that goes into it. I'll tell you what.
And there's less and less O-line coaches out there, especially in high school. That's how I got because like I said, I made a name for myself at Charleston because I was always down, coached there for years. I took the long college plan. I was an OC at Charleston High School and everything else. Came up here in the suburbs. My fiance now went to Elmhurst. She went to York. So came up here. I didn't know anybody, didn't know a soul. So I got started at Lombard East, but how I was able to bounce around to find a spot. Oh, you coached O-line? You're in.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm like, is there no O-line coaches? And they said, we can't find them. People will tell me they can't find them. And because it's the hardest thing to coach, in my opinion. I'm like, it is the hardest.
Yep. Oh, hey, I'll tell you, everybody knows you got to have a quarterback to be successful. And that's still valid. But I believe you build your championship teams inside out, front to back. And so if you're good on both lines of scrimmage, especially up the middle, you got a chance to be successful.
Yes, you do. That's because I helped out spring ball when Coach Baber was there.
Yeah.
And he was transitioning from the pro style type that Coach Spoo had.
Yep.
That snapped the ball every 10 or 12 seconds.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, he wasn't used to the Charleston weather or Illinois weather because he was at Baylor. He came out. Now, in Charleston, if it's, 50 degrees, 55 degrees in the spring, you're feeling kind of good. You can shorts or long sleeves or short sleeves, whatever. He's in a parka and gloves and walking out there with the stopwatch and he's timing them. But watching those O-line guys, when they figured it out, they were just blasting people off the ball in that up-tempo offense.
Yep.
And how quickly they could adapt to it. So that kind of full circle to my the question of the bumps in the road you get, but once they figure it out and they tweak it, no matter what, defense, offense, special teams, it's going to go.
No question.
Especially if you guys get them believing, they're going to go.
Well, and I know, again, Coach Babers did a phenomenal job. And yes, he had a great scheme and he inherited a very, very good player and a ton of other really good players in, Jimmy and Eric Laura and tons of the other guys that went on to, be part of those teams. But they had a very strong culture. They had a belief in one another. They had a brotherhood. They had created a family atmosphere. Like I said, that's part of it. When you establish a championship team, you got to have that belief and love and care and respect for one another in the locker room. So that's what we're focused on right now.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. I know you got to get out of here. You got more important things to do, but I appreciate your time. I do know one of your offensive linemen you recruited. He came from Westville. My buddy at Westville. So if Bryce gives you trouble, you got to let me know. I think he might still be there, but if he is, I will.
Oh, he's here. He's here right now, working out hard. But you just let us know. Hey, and like I said, hey, we had about 100 alums come back during the spring game. And so this is your house. If you happen to be back in the area or you want to come to a football game, just let me know. But we appreciate everything you're doing. It was great to talk to you, Steve. And hey, have a great weekend and go Panthers.
Go Panthers. And I haven't been there in a long time, but you got me going now. So thank you so much, guys. Go follow EIU football. It'll be great. I tried to follow it. So thanks so much. Thank you, Coach. And we'll see everybody next time.